This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host Keith Angle on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody. Keith Angle for TGI Sports Talk right here on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. What a beautiful November day. It's a little chilly, but bright. Might have some snow tonight. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Good morning, Rick Sherlock. First in the room this morning, you get today's prize, which is to watch me drink a cup of coffee. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're ready for some football. And we got lots to talk about. We got football to talk about. We got college football, which is coming to a head. Good morning, Carlos. Some good games yesterday. Embarrassing loss for Texas to Kansas. Big win for Michigan. We'll get into all that. We'll get into the NFL. We'll talk some Major League Baseball. Yankees zeroing in on Justin Verlander. Not sure how excited I am, although the terms I heard, Carlos and I talked about this on my show Friday. I'm kind of excited about the terms that I heard. I can deal with this with what I've heard so far. Good morning, Anthony. Good to see you. Well, we'll be talking hockey this morning as well. We haven't had our hockey. We haven't gotten our hockey on yet this year. We'll have Jim Biringer on here in a few minutes to talk about the NHL so far. We'll talk to him about some of the COVID effect there. Big news in the NFL with the COVID too. There's some big players out. Nick Chubb is out for the Browns, and Big Ben's out for the Steelers. I do have Steelers in a survivor pool today. By the way, the big $80,000 pool. Take you outie. Thank you, Cowboys. Did well. What else? We'll review our picks. I know some of you are having some trouble making picks on the ESPN site. Kenny had messaged me the other day. Let me know if you got in, Kenny. Yeah, good point, Rick. I'll talk about that during the college football section for sure. I know Mark Mathewson had texted me last night. He was having trouble. He was only seeing like Thursday night's game. Guys, I don't know what the problem is. It's a free site. I can't do much. I don't have any admin rights or anything. I should pay for those things. I can tell you that I did mine on my laptop last night. I thought I had done my picks, but they weren't there. So double check. If you have done them, double check. If you're having trouble, go to a laptop or a tower and try to do it that way. So, Kenny, I don't know if you got yours in, but let me know. Anyway, Rick's talking about quick, and we're getting into this in the college section. Notre Dame did do good last night. I picked Virginia to upset them. Virginia looked terrible. The Notre Dame defense was really good. Running game was good. Who knows? There's going to be some movement again, and we'll talk about this again when we get to the college football section. Well, I said on some shows Friday that Oklahoma State had to be reckoned with if they won out. Big win yesterday. Gosh, I don't even have the score in front of me right now. We'll have it later. 63-12. I'm not even sure. But a huge win, coupled with Oklahoma losing for the first time. And that, in a way, that hurts Oklahoma State, to be honest with you. They'd be better off beating Oklahoma themselves, and beating them again in the Big 12 championship game would have been their best path to the playoff, I think. But they will move up. So it'll be interesting to see where that get ranked this week. And then again, the style points, whatever. We'll talk about all of that stuff. I should have had Jim come on a little bit earlier. I had something else planned for the open here today, but I don't have it. Jim will be on by 9:15 or so, usually a little bit early. Baylor played great yesterday, right, Carlos? Good morning, Bill Pulver. Baylor did play well yesterday. My picks yesterday were not great. I bet Penn State, who scored late to tie the game. I thought they might actually pull out this victory, and they did not. They ended up losing, not covering. Baylor, I bet, which is a good one, and I took Tennessee. I love home dogs, especially live home dogs who should score some points. That tells me something. I mean, Tennessee's run a great offense this year. Josh Heupel's done a great job there, and they weren't able really to move the ball with any consistency last night. I thought they'd get 20, 25 points, and it would give them a shot at covering the 20-point spread. Didn't happen. A lot of big news in the NFL, a lot of big injuries out there, by the way, and we're going to touch on that stuff, too. As I said, Big Ben's out, Nick Chubb's out, Kamara for New Orleans is out, Robert Woods goes down. Interestingly enough, the day after the Rams signed Odell Beckham Jr., maybe that injury happened on Thursday. I'm not sure. Kenny says it doesn't look like it took my picks. Well, look, I'm going to lose no matter what. Because if I lose, the second place guy is going to get the money. So even if nobody else gets any picks in, I got to pay. I'm not the Bill Belichick of football pools. Guys, double check it. I don't know. Kenny, try to make the picks again today. I don't know if you're doing it from your phone or from a computer. Mark was trying to do it from his phone. I don't know if it's got something to do with phone. I don't have that on my phone. I'm going to try to put it on my phone today. I think I've got it. I just don't think I've ever logged in there. And we'll go through those picks and see where we all stand today. And look at, I don't know, we'll figure it out. If everybody can't get in, Auburn going down, they'll drop out. You're right. Auburn's, I don't have any much confidence in Auburn beating Alabama now. Yeah, well, they were good for 2 quarters. You called that one, Carlos. I'll have to give you that one. Phone as always. If you got access to a computer, try that. That'd be my best. What's a computer? Well, see if there's a help button where you can ask for help. We'll probably get some admin help from them. If they work like Facebook, you'll probably get some admin help in about a month. Technology, guys. Again, as I said, Kenny, I don't know if we hear at the top, but it's a free site. I don't have any admin rights. I can't go in and put picks in for people. We'll do the best we can. Hopefully you can get in. I guess if you don't, give me your picks and send me your picks if you want it, I guess, via Messenger. And maybe I'll try to keep track of them manually going forward. I don't know. But then I really got to make an allowance for Rick when he had two accounts. So I really do. I'd really rather not do that. So we'll see what happens. Technology is great until it doesn't work, and we have no way to fix it. So anyway, we're going to talk about the NHL in a little bit with Jim Biringer. It'll be our lead-off topic today. We haven't gotten into it. We'll talk to him about some surprises, some disappointments here early in the year. Again, the effects of COVID. They've had some players miss some time, and you're liable to miss more than one game when we're talking about that with the NFL, right? Similar to Major League Baseball or the NBA. We'll have to talk a little bit. Maybe we'll get an update on the abuse allegations going on. I really hate diving into that kind of news, but we'll at least get some good news. There's some good stories. I mean, the Metropolitan looks like it's loaded this year right now. Early, again, we've only played 13 games, but, it's not a bad sample size. That division just looks loaded from top to bottom if they continue to play. I mean, the Islanders are in last place at 5-4-2, so we could I did see your pick on Carlos, or your pick on Wednesday, Carlos. I remember. Oh, Anthony, we're talking about the ESPN. My and maybe you weren't on yet when I started the TGI Sports Talk football pool. You can still participate. Now you probably wouldn't have a chance to win the yearly prize, but you could certainly. Terrible sample size. What you're talking about? It's 15% of the season's been played. How is 10% of anything not a reasonable sample size? What has it got to be? 75%? And that doesn't mean these teams are going to stay this way. But I mean, can you tell me that after 13 games, you don't have some kind of feel for how teams are going to go? I'm not talking about 5 games here. I'm talking about 13 or 12 at a minimum, 15, 16. At least as the Islanders with 11. So, guys, Carlos, that's a decent sample size when you're only playing 80 games. So, well, maybe I'm wrong. I'll ask Jim what he thinks a decent sample size is. Agreed, and that's been by comment with the Knicks, right? I mean, but still. All right. I'm not going to quibble with that. I mean, you may be right. I said it's a decent sample size. I didn't say it was the best sample size. We're going to get into that for sure, Kenny. We're going to, everybody, what is it, Rick? Nobody wants Georgia. Nobody wants to admit Georgia's really good. As usual, the stream of consciousness continues. Anyway, let's just talk about, I mean, we'll have Jim in here in a second, Carlos, but if you don't think right now the Metropolitan looks like the best division in hockey, agreed. Hockey's different than any other sport. I won't give you any argument there, Carlos. Carlos and I, by the way, I guess I'll run this off. Carlos and I ended up doing a debate show on Friday. I had a guest lined up, Uwe von Schaman, the former kicker for the Miami Dolphins and the champion at Oklahoma. And Uwe was sick, and we hope Uwe's doing well. So he couldn't make it. He let me know at the last minute he wasn't feeling well, and we need to reschedule. So I kind of was putting together a show on a fly, and Carlos was around, and I said, if you want to kind of come in and debate some of the topics we've kicked around the last bunch of months, feel free. And I thought it went well, and we had fun. West teams will wake up in a week. Well, they're at a different time zone. Guys are killing me. Oh, God. Well, you're just like Alabama. Why wouldn't you be rooting for Georgia? Anyway, the show went well Friday. I had fun with Carlos, and I've talked to him about potentially doing more of this. I may switch up. I know a lot of people, because it's some of the best viewership I get. I mean, we haven't got a bad number of views, I don't think, on the show Friday. But and by the way, since I went into Facebook jail months ago, they've really put a throttle on the way I'm able to market the show. So I'm not happy about that. Facebook, just an FYI. We'll see if I can get myself kicked off again. But I had fun with it, and it gets harder and harder to get guests, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we can't do this show weekly, and I don't know that even that Carlos can do it weekly. But him and I are going to chat about it, and because I had a lot of fun, and I like dissenting opinion. I only want to do it if if I do it, Carlos, I want to pick topics we're not going to agree on. Here I am talking like Carlos and I have had some long negotiations about this, and I think I had a 3-second conversation with him. So, oh gosh, how did I get on that? Next week, by the way, we don't have a lot of basketball fans, and I've been pushing basketball back like I was the NHL, but I know you guys are more into the NHL, Rick especially, Carlos, than you are the NBA. Carlos is into the NBA. I know Rick isn't, Kenny isn't, and some of our regulars aren't. So I've been pushing the NBA off, and I may continue to do that and de-emphasize it, especially as I need time to talk about college football, the NFL, even Major League Baseball. If they lock out, there won't be much to talk about. Where was I going with this? Oh, next week's show, hopefully I'll be able to do it on Friday. I'm going to record an interview this week, and it's going to be, we're going to talk about the old ABA. I've got an administrator from one of the ABA groups on. I got a former ABA and ABA Nets super fan, and Brian Taylor, who played for the the New York Nets in the old ABA. He was a really good player, will join us as well. So that ought to be fun. Before I bring Rick in, let me just... I made the comment about which sports you were into, Carlos, by the way. With that, I said, are you ready for some football earlier? I know, but are you ready for some hockey? because for the first time this year, and we got to get this more consistent. I don't know when to do it. Maybe, I don't know if it'll be weekly or bi-weekly. What we'll do, well, we'll talk to Jim Biringer, who we'll bring in now. Jim Biringer from The Last Word on Hockey. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm excellent. Had a bad day yesterday in my college picks, but Jim was also kind enough to come on the College Football Huddle show the last few weeks, because he also is not just limited in his knowledge to hockey.
No.
He's a very, very well-rounded sports authority. So thank you for that.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Of course. Thanks for having me on that show. Thanks for having me on this show as well. You know, love talking college football, love talking hockey, two of my specialties. My college picks did very well yesterday, as well as another upset that I got in my own pool that I was doing. So,
well, before I even ask you a question, I'll just put this up, and I'm not going to put any comments up for a while after it. But Carlos is going to start right out of the gate.
Of course.
Oh, my God. Oh, let me change my banner.
All right. That's
let's. I was looking at some things, and in all honesty, hockey's hard for me, man. As I get into the fall, I just need some time to get into it. And now I just am, as we're going to have you on, and as things start to wind down, and Major League Baseball's gone, World Series is done, college football will start to wind down here, except for bowl games. It won't be, 100 games on a Saturday every week. So we get time to spend more time looking at this. And as I'm looking at it, I was amazed. And I got a question about sample size for you that Carlos and I were debating a little while ago. The Metropolitan Division looks like a beast right now. And it's going to be very, very tough in that division. It's going to be, at the bottom are the Islanders at 5-4, which, again, not a terrific record, but not what the last place teams are in the other divisions. What are your thoughts early on about where we stand, with any surprises, disappointments, and my comment there? And do you think 13 is starting to become a reasonable sample size to get some kind of trends going, or you think it's too small?
For the Islanders, it's hard to say that 13 games is a reasonable sample size, since all of them are on the road. They won't play a home game until next Saturday at UBS Arena when they open up the building against the Calgary Flames. But their record is, as good as it's going to be for being on the road. They had their first game in the metro area on Thursday night against the Devils, first time since the Game 6 of the NHL semifinals against Tampa last year. So, they're going to be – there's some ups and downs, some growing adjustments with new players on that roster. They got to find their scoring. They got to find their legs again. Zdeno Chara hasn't really worked out. They're going to have to find a better way to protect him. Zach Parise, they're going to have to find ways to adjust that lineup. Trotz and Lou will know what they need. They obviously know they need goal scoring, which has always been an issue, and they're going to upgrade their defense. But as you said off the top, Metro Division really, really tough this year. Tougher. It's always been one of the tougher divisions because it's that old Patrick Division rivalry with everybody. But, with teams improving like New Jersey, like Philadelphia, the Rangers are playing really well. Carolina's atop that division. Washington's still there, sticking around. Even Columbus, who, they had a loss Saturday night, but they're right there as well. Pittsburgh near the bottom. So it up and down, that entire division is really, really tough to pick, maybe outside of like one or two teams. You look around the league as well. You look at a lot of surprising starts. You go over to the Pacific, for instance. You're talking about the LA Kings. You're talking about the Anaheim Ducks playing really, really well. Good hockey. A lot of guys turning back the clock out on the West Coast. In the Central, you're looking at Nashville having a resurgence this year, even though a lot of people thought maybe you never know what they moves that they made, getting rid of Ellis, Arvidsson. Let's see what they do there. It just around, the Atlantic too. The Florida Panthers continue to be red hot despite what happened with their coach. They're playing really well. Tampa Bay's back to where Tampa Bay's supposed to be, and near the top of the division because they're the champs and they're on a mission to three-peat.
It's been a lot of fun. Who would you say? I see some surprises, right out of the gate, as you mentioned. Didn't mention the Sabres. They're only 6-6, but certainly much improved from where they were last year. Is this that much better a team right now?
Don Granado is a really good coach for Buffalo, the Sabres fans, Sabre Nation, really good fan base up there. Really good teams for years. Finally, they had a lot of lean years after Drury and Briere left. But Sabres 6-6. You know what? They're not bad. They're playing really well. And early on before the Jack Eichel trade, they put the distraction aside. Put a lot of Skinner turning back the clock, Oposto as well, playing really well. But they're playing that system. Don Granado is really good for the young players there, especially a guy like Casey Middlestat. He came into his own last season. So if they can keep the distractions to the side, and play a little bit more, they're going to play more respectable hockey this year. They're not going to make a playoff spot, but they're going to be tough. They're going to be a tougher out, like Detroit is in that Atlantic Division as well. The Red Wings, Stevie Yzerman, he built those cup teams down in Tampa. He learned from the best, being with Kenny Holland, who's down in Edmonton. He's got the right pieces there as well. They may not be a playoff team, but they're going to surely contend for and make things hard for those teams in the Atlantic Division.
Yeah, and your Devils are a bit resurgent at the moment anyway. You see that continuing?
Yeah, I think so. I like the way they're playing. Again, the injury bug for the Devils has always been an issue over the last couple of years. Jack Hughes still out of the lineup with a dislocated shoulder. Miles Wood has not skated since the Ranger game, I believe, or the Capital game in the preseason. He had to have hip surgery. The Devils yesterday against Boston, towards the end, Ryan Graves left the game after blocking a shot. So we'll see if he's available tonight against the Rangers. So, I think they can continue it. They have a number one pair now in Hamilton and Graves. They're getting good scoring. This kid Dawson Mercer's been on fire ever since he signed him and they drafted him. That line of him, Andreas Janssen and Jesper Bratt's been really, really good. So I could see the Devils continue. They got to improve a couple of things, especially on special teams, if they really want to be a contender in that Metro.
Yeah, how about as far as disappointments? Is there anybody that stands out as a huge disappointment this early?
I think Dallas. I think the Dallas Stars, big time disappointment. Yeah, they played better yesterday. But, again, you always got to call out teams like Dallas because of who's on that team. You have a Tyler Seguin, a Jamie Benn, a Radulov, a Pavelski. Those players, seem to always – not Pavelski so much, but like Ben and Seguin always need a kick in the pants. You could throw the Canadians in there considering they were Stanley Cup final, but they have a lot of leeway, I guess you could say, over the last couple of years because they're not playing with Price. There's no Weber in the lineup, missing Byron. And it's not excuses, but, it's injuries and a lot of key players are missing in that lineup. You could throw a Penguins there as well, but again, tough division, no Sid, no Gino, Malkin. So that's, again, I'm really, really hard to see. I want to see what the Penguins look like when they have those players back. Let's see if that stuff continues. But you don't want to get behind the 8 ball too early in these divisions.
You think Crosby's hurting Pittsburgh as Carlos thinks there?
There's been a lot of talk, like either Crosby or Malkin is going to be the one. It's most likely going to be Malkin that gets traded out of town. I think Crosby's a lifer there. He is the captain of that team. I don't think they're going to trade him. But I wouldn't be shocked if a guy like Malkin gets moved. They maybe bring in youth movement through Pittsburgh. That's something that they need to do. LA, Anaheim is finally doing it. You could say Vegas is disappointing as well, considering, there's a lot of expectations for that team. But again, no Mark Stone, no Pacioretty, Jack Eichel they just received. So he's going to be having that. He had that successful surgery. So let's see what they do there as well.
It's before we move on to another topic, let me just catch up on a couple of comments here and see. We got Carlos. Carlos is the comment king again today. Buffalo needs to bring the checks back in again. I don't know if you got any comment there.
I know what he's talking about, like Maxim and Finneganov and the Russians and all those guys. I will say, a team, though, not a playoff team this year, but probably have better expectations for themselves is the Ottawa Senators. They have a good young team. They were moving in the right direction. Yeah, Brady Tkachuk not there at the beginning of the year, but they're sitting in dead last in the East. I think they could have. I think they're a better team than they are. They just need better goaltending. I don't know if Matt Murray's the guy that they need to have there in Ottawa. So that's kind of a disappointing. The thing is, like you look at the Central, right, and that's another tough division. And Minnesota sits atop that division, but they're playing really well under what Bill Guerin's done there, and Dan Evison, and having a guy like Kirill Kaprizov is unbelievable what he does for that team, and he's finally off the schneid. So look out for the Minnesota Wild to keep this going.
Okay. Carlos also said the Islanders are coming home next Saturday, which I think he's talking about getting healthy, and we're getting moving as far as wins and losses go.
Yeah, they'll have their first home game on Long Island in their new building next week.
And I guess tied to that, I don't know how much this is related to hockey talk, but we'll get Billy's hockey comment up here. Shaq's going to open a big chicken location in the Islanders' new.
Yeah, so there's in the new UBS Arena. They mentioned it this week. Shaq, they named a big place there, Shaq's Big Chicken and Big Sandwich, tied with Blue Line Deli, Donald Rosner. So that's going to be really good to see in a new building.
Let's see. I think this one will be tied. Bill has a signature. Oh, Jack has a signature sandwich.
Yeah.
Sounds like yuck.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I got another topic I want to talk about, but since Kenny likes to throw out things about basketball and hockey, not a big fan. I misspelled your name in here, didn't I? God darn it. Sorry about that. See if I can fix that. So hockey is filled with athletes that couldn't play in other sports. I'd love to get your opinion on that, Jim.
All right, so let's talk about guys that can't play other sports, because these guys do play other sports. A lot of guys grew up playing soccer, they transitioned to hockey. All these guys play different sports. I know, who was it? And I know people are going to knock the sport, but tennis, a lot of guys, play tennis. Golf is a sport. They do it in the off season, but they play golf. But they're athletes. They're trained to do other things. Their bodies are machines, and they can do it. And all these guys I've seen do other things, not hockey related. And, it's funny. It takes a real athlete to train and hone their game. And with hockey, you need, a lot of these guys, as much as, you don't hear about it, these guys have figure skating coaches, and that's really tough to do, to hone your edges. So I've seen a lot of these guys do different things. They're into other sports. They play other things. So hockey, you have to be very athletic to play hockey. You not only need to know how to skate, but there's balancing. There's so much to do with hockey.
Soccer. Oh, Kenny's a baseball and football fan. You got to remember, and
I don't know how.
He's also a graduate of the same high school I am, so that might tell you about where these comments are coming from. I don't know. But
I don't know. I don't know. I didn't know baseball players were real athletes either.
That's a good point. I won't argue that point. I will agree. Carlos and I had a little debate about whether 13 games was a decent sample size. I didn't say it was the best. I just said you start to get a feel for the way things are going to go. Obviously, mid-season's a better measuring point, Carlos. I certainly understand that.
The tradition has always been in the National Hockey League. You'll know there's been a couple of outliers, but you usually know by American Thanksgiving what the playoffs will look like.
Let me ask, so what do you think about COVID? And I don't know how many. I saw a few players out, this weekend. Has there been much of a COVID effect so far on teams early in the season?
Not too much. The biggest story so far has been the Ottawa Senators. They've had about 8-9 players go through it.
Yeah.
So they've brought up a lot of players, and it's definitely affecting their team, not having their players in the lineup, considering there's been more expectations this season for them. It's been a handful of players here and there throughout various teams. Some have been false positives and have been back. Others have taken longer to come back. It's because they have to go through the proper protocol, get tested, and all that stuff. But hopefully the NHL is turning a corner with everything. And if they can get through this, everything's going to be an issue. It won't be an issue anymore. There's only one player left in the National Hockey League that isn't vaccinated. That's Tyler Bertuzzi. So he can't play 9 games in Canada this season. But the Red Wings, and that's a tough loss for them because he's their leading goal scorer.
Or New York City, I'm sure. Either.
No, he can come to New York City and play.
Oh, he can?
He just can't. See, what the rule is if you're unvaccinated, you have to be in your own hotel room. You can't do anything with the team in the National Hockey League. So if you're vaccinated, players can go out and do all that stuff. But if you're unvaccinated, you have to stay in your own hotel room, and you only can go from the hotel to the rink, and that's it. You have to isolate yourself.
Interesting. And I'll just bring this up. It's not really tied to hockey, but Carlos is right. COVID is a little wild in the NFL the last few weeks. It's starting to take a rear its ugly head. Hopefully this is going to become a trend for sure.
Yeah, same here. I mean, real quick on that, I got to wonder how many players the actual number is in the NFL to what they're reporting, because I got a feeling that number is a lot lower than they say it is.
I'll just put this up as Rick and Carlos are going at it again a little bit today. So
they were going at it the other night too.
You guys definitely continue. I will bring this up because this isn't the one I wanted. Where is that? Anthony Price had a question, because I was going to ask you a little bit about Ovechkin and his legacy now that he's passed Brett Hull, and he's got a question about Ovechkin or Sidney Crosby being a better player. Right now, I don't know, but overall, who would you say had the better career? Has had the better career? They're not done.
Probably Crosby's had the better career.
I just love Ovechkin. I don't know why.
The thing is they're two different players. It's so hard.
Yeah.
Because Ovechkin's a goal scorer. Crosby's not. Even though Crosby's won a rocket, Richard, as a leading goal scorer in the NHL, he's a different player. He's also a center. Ovechkin's a wing. I know they've been tied since their draft year and when they've come in, but if you look at every big game outside of 2018, Sidney Crosby's got the better. Has gotten the better of him. What do we always say about Brady and Manning in other sports? You look at the championships that have won. Sid's got 3. He's beat him in a world championship at Olympics twice. He's beat him at the World Juniors. He's beat him on the other big stages. Ovechkin has got a world championship to his name, and he's got a Stanley Cup finally. But they're two different players. Ovechkin's legacy is about goal scoring. His mission now is to pass Wayne Gretzky as the greatest goal scorer of all time, and I think he's the best pure goal scorer I've seen play this game in a long, long time.
You think he'll be able to stay around long enough to catch Gretzky?
The big thing for me is he probably would have done it already if it wasn't for 2 lockouts and 2 COVID seasons. He probably might have done that, and Yager probably would have had more points if he didn't go over to Europe a bunch of times. But I think he'll probably do it. Again, it all depends on his body and how well he holds up.
Right. Good call there. I guess, what are your projections? I mean, who are your picks to kind of come out of these divisions? Do you have one yet? You feel it's too early? You like to get a little more settled in, or did you have some preseason picks that I don't know about?
I mean, with the boys on my show at Last Word on Hockey Show on Saturday, we would go around with different picks. I mean, I always said, to me in the Atlantic, until somebody beats the champs, I think Tampa has to go back. It has to be at the top of that division. If you're not going to I've always liked Carolina at top the Metro. I think the way their team is built is just so good.
I like the Rangers are doing, though. I really do.
I think I said before the season started, this is Stanley Cup playoffs or bust for the New York Rangers, considering all the moves that they made in the offseason, and they're starting to then they're putting it all together. It's funny because we were on the show a bunch last year talking about everything, and this is the year that everything would have come together if you still had Gordon and all those guys in place, because last year they were there, but they didn't have enough to go over. Now they're pushing a playoff spot.
And in the West?
I mean, I've always, I think if Colorado could start getting its act together, I think they're one of the favorites to come out. I wouldn't be shocked if Winnipeg makes a run this year. Vegas gets back in it. Edmonton's got to start doing something this year for me. Same with Toronto. If those guys get in the playoffs, doesn't matter regular season wise. These guys can have as many winning streaks, point streaks as they want. They better start playing differently come the playoffs, because those teams are really loaded to do something this year.
Agreed. A little early. It is early to tell. I get it, Carlos. I do understand. The last thing I want to bring up, and it's not the most pleasant topic, but how do you see the whole abuse investigation and the Blackhawks organization affecting that team and the league in general? I mean, will this branch out into something even bigger, or what are your thoughts? Do you have anything you want to share there, Jim?
I mean, I've always said from the beginning, got to let a lot of this stuff play out, see where it goes. I think right now the right people, the right people lost jobs. I think Gary Bettman did his best to handle the situation. He came off as a lawyer, same with Bill Daley, and that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to take the brunt of everything. A lot of people may not like what happened. They thought Cheveldayoff probably should have gone as well. But you know what? They found that they did their investigation. They found out differently. The NHLPA is going to do its thing with Donald Fear. lot of people let a lot of people down. That's all I'm going to say. And I think it definitely did affect the Blackhawks play on the ice because recently, ever since all this stuff got out and changes were made behind the bench and Jeremy Colleton was let go and all the moves, they're starting to play a little bit better and up to the expectations a lot of people had for them. I didn't think they were a playoff team despite the players on that roster. It was an improved roster. They probably should be better than they are. But you could definitely tell it was affecting a lot of players. But I think now that they're starting to play a lot better. So we'll see where it goes from here.
Is there any sense that you have that this will branch out to become something of a bigger, wider spread thing or just isolated?
No, I don't know. I don't think so. I think a lot of stuff now, I think people – teams are really supposed to be handling this stuff internally, as we saw with Anaheim. Bob Murray resigned because of substance abuse. So good for him to get some help with that. We'll see. Again, the biggest thing is going to be what happens with the NHLPA investigation and Donald Fear. Does he lose his job? Does he help with transition? Players were not happy what happened. But everybody's got to remember when this incident happened, Donald Fear was just coming in as the executive director for the NHLPA. Emails came to him come 2011, and the real issue is the NHLPA doctor should have done something more to help this kid and to make sure that the coach didn't go on to other jobs. So I think that's
it doesn't matter where we talk about this type of topic. It's the same kind of story, right? Somebody gets covered up, somebody gets moved around, and it just gets, they shuffle the problem and hope it'll go away.
Right, exactly. So we'll see what happens. Let's see where the chips fall from all this other stuff, where the fallout from everything else.
Let's just see what other comments we got here before we wrap up our hockey for today. So Kenny thinks that you're better at controlling your anger with him than probably, I'm assuming he means me. But I agree. But whatever. Hockey, I have never said hockey players are not athletes, man, because what they do is very, very hard to do. I still think hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do in sports myself, but that doesn't mean you're a great athlete.
I mean, look, I agree with that 100%, but the coordination it takes to skate and stick handle with a puck not looking down at the ice is ridiculous, and you should see some of these off-season training programs these players go through.
Carlos, I think, is agreeing with your Ovechkin and Crosby, except the fact that they're both warthogs. But whatever, they deserve what they get.
I mean, when you're the best player in the league for so long, you deserve that stuff.
And apparently, Carlos respects Ovechkin because he got his favorite coach, Barry Trotz. I don't know whether Carlos.
Wait a minute. I gotta address this because Ovechkin did not get Barry Trotz fired. Alex Ovechkin has the most respect for Barry Trotz. Him, Backstrom, all those players who are on that team were mad at that owner because they didn't re-sign Barry Trotz. Barry Trotz was a free agent coach and got paid to do what he's doing with the Islanders. The players did not want him to go because you can clearly see the system has fell apart since he left, and they haven't won a playoff series since Trotz left. They didn't get him fired. The owner didn't pay him. That's the difference.
Well, in Carlos's coach firing world, a lot of things happen. I don't know if he hates Barry Trotz more or Coach Tibbs. I don't know which one he hates most. It's a toss-up, I think. I don't know.
I think it's a toss-up for sure.
But he is saying he loves the Rangers this year. He just
wants to be optimistic. Yeah.
Here's Rick Sherlock wants to know how we think the Rangers coach is doing so far. Well, they're 8-3, and they're 8-3 with a minus goal scoring.
Differential.
Differential. Yeah. So you think he's doing okay?
I liked what Gerard Gallant's been doing. I mean, he was the best coach available for them. I thought the Devils should have picked him up. There's a reason why Vegas went to the Stanley Cup Final their first year. Reason why Florida was playing so well. Gerard Gallant's a good coach, and the Rangers have a very good coach, so he's really good at adjusting. He's got his players. It doesn't hurt that you have Adam Fox on defense, Igor Shesterkin between the pipes, Artemi Panarin and Mika Zibanejad up front. And when Chris Kreider's having a resurgent season like he is, the Rangers are playing really, really well. A lot of balance across that line, that roster.
Yeah, good call. And Carlos finally says something I can't necessarily. I believe he's talking about the abuse allegations, ridiculous in any league, but he does think the NHL is doing a better job with the situation at the moment, which, that'll remain to be seen, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Carlos is in my corner with that, unlike
Yeah.
the rest of Twitter. So.
Yeah, and he's also said you can't compare the issues with U.S. I wasn't really mentioning
Yeah,
U.S.
no, we
or
weren't really
whatnot, but
talking. No.
there's a lot of places in life in general where these things happen and things get shuffled around. But listen, Jim, I don't want to. We're going to close it up for hockey, unless you got You got anything else you want to close up with hockey?
No, I got nothing. No, I got nothing to say.
Okay, so I'm going to have you on Wednesday night, so I don't want to kind of vulture all that information, but you want to give me a quick takeaway from yesterday, and we'll wrap it up with you on that note.
Yeah, quick takeaway from Saturday night, from Saturday, all day Saturday. Really, realistically, watching, getting caught up, upsets galore. We talked about it on your Wednesday show. You asked me an upset. I said Baylor, Oklahoma. I had a feeling that was coming. It did come. Michigan played a lot closer game in Penn State than people thought. And, the big boys did what they had to do. Cincinnati got style points on Friday night. That final touchdown helped them out.
Yeah.
Notre Dame with the big win. It was a lot of good football over the weekend. So we'll see. I like the fact that the Big 12 is so wide open. And
I'll tell you, I said Wednesday, and I said on Mac and Jack show Friday that I think Oklahoma State runs the table. They're gonna get themselves in the mix here.
they have to, right?
I think Oklahoma losing yesterday kind of hurts their chances because they've been better off giving them their first loss, then beating them again in the championship game would have been the best scenario for Oklahoma State. But they could make a run from 11 to in the top 4, depending on what happens above them.
Yeah, I mean, it's really I like what those two teams are doing, Baylor and Oklahoma State, especially the Cowboys. I like the way they're playing. Ohio State gets the W. Michigan is definitely ND is not getting in. I'm sorry, that's not happening.
Yesterday, I thought they'd get beat outright yesterday, but I missed that one badly.
Another big takeaway is that Texas A&M is probably not going to the SEC title game.
That's a huge takeaway because it's still wide open over there. Anybody could get in, and Georgia. It doesn't matter. Whoever Georgia loses to, it doesn't matter. They're going. Georgia's going. If they only have one loss, they're going. But it's important for Alabama. They got to get there, and I'm not so sure Auburn's got a chance to beat them now.
No, neither do I. I think the way Alabama's playing, obviously they beat up on a Trump school yesterday, but still, I mean, look, you're rolling into Auburn. You're going to play well. If they beat Georgia, you're guaranteed 2 SEC teams in the playoffs.
Agreed. Well, let's not vulture everything we got to talk about Wednesday. I'll talk a little bit more about college football now, but we'll certainly get you in, and we'll have a new poll to look at. And there's going to be some interesting movement, I think.
I think so. I think Oklahoma State's going to jump big.
I do too. All right, Jim Biringer, thanks for coming in today. Thanks for getting us caught up on hockey, and we'll get a schedule together, and we'll have you in and keep us updated as we go through the season.
Absolutely, Keith. Thanks for having me on. Always a pleasure. Talk hockey and college football with you.
All right. Good luck with those Devils.
Thanks, man.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Jim Biringer from the Last Word on Hockey. Gosh, man, he knows it all. No better guy to have on hockey than Jim Biringer, I will tell you right now. No offense to any hockey guys we might have on the Northeast Stream Sports Network. I just love what Jim brings to the table. So I didn't get a chance to ask him if he was Trotz's agent, Carlos. Sorry. Let's see what's Kenny got here. Ohio State falls in the next 2 weeks. I thought Ohio State's vulnerable. It's possible Harbaugh gets his first win against Ohio State. At Michigan. And he's got to still. I still think he needs a big win for by the way, Michigan yesterday. Huge win. To keep their not just their Big Ten hopes alive, but their playoff hopes alive. That's a big, big win yesterday. New Mexico. Yeah, Alabama with a nice win over. Who did Alabama play yesterday? Good grief. My gosh. Who did Alabama play? Was it New Mexico or New Mexico State? Carlos? I'll probably find it for you. You can tell me. So on. Oh, gosh. I had it written down here, but I only wrote down a note about Alabama not to score. New Mexico State, 59-3. Again, I got to say, what are these teams doing playing New Mexico State with 3 games left in the season? If you got to play these cupcakes, play them in September. Oh, my gosh. And Georgia's got, I don't know, Carlos, maybe you know the team. It's not the team you were promoting early in the year. I know that. It's like Southern Charleston Technical School for the Blind. Sorry, I don't mean to disparage their team, but yes, thanks, Jim. Great job as always. Oh, let's see what else you guys got before I move on. Jim, thank you for giving thanks to Jim Kenny. Guys, I have not had enough coffee this morning. I really haven't. Look back and I know they do this, Kenny. I don't disagree with you. I don't like, here's the thing. Again, here I go. This is my problem with the disparaging of the AAC, leagues like the AAC or the Mountain West or, whatever group of 5 conference you want to talk about that's hot at the time. These teams won't play them. Alabama's out there playing New Mexico State. They're not playing Cincinnati and Houston and Air Force and San Diego State or Texas San Antonio. Would they kill them? Yes. Texas San Antonio. Cincinnati will compete with these guys. Give them a chance to play. And they're going to play in the Big 12 in a couple of years, so it's going to be irrelevant as far as Cincinnati goes. Austin P. Who did Austin P play? Arkansas next week? Well, then it's 2 weeks. Oh, who's got Arkansas next week? You tell me Georgia's got Georgia's got Arkansas next week? Let's take a quick look. Let's take a quick look at Georgia. Ooh, we're in the wrong league. I'll take your word for it. I'm not going to spend time looking for that right now. Anyway, some other big scores yesterday. Here's some scores that affect the polls. Let's just take a quick look. I want to go by the polls here and look at the teams at the top. Georgia rolls against Tennessee. Probably not as close as the score indicated. Georgia just dominated in the second half. I thought Tennessee would score some points in this game. They did not. Alabama, they get style points if you want to count style points against New Mexico State. Oregon, no style points here. They win by 14 against a mediocre Washington State team. Ohio State, again, gave up a lot of points to Purdue. They won big, gave up a lot of points to Purdue. Cincinnati, I predicted a 48-7 win, and they get their style point victory that people have been looking for. Well, they got almost their 48. What was the score here? Hold on. 45-28. They were well in control of this team, and they let South Florida back in. They don't put their foot on these guys' necks. And Desmond Ridder, by the way, Carlos, you got to start watching this kid play. I know you think he's not a good quarterback. 31-39, almost over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. Plus, he ran the ball very well. I know he ran for at least 1 touchdown, if not 2. You got to start giving this kid some credit. In my mind. Michigan with a big win on the road at Penn State. Low-scoring game as I figured it would be. I thought Penn State really need their defense to score points. And, Michigan came up with a big drive at the end of the game that really sealed the deal. Michigan State gets a pretty good win yesterday, so they're not going to move down. So this top 7, I'm not sure what's going to happen here. How they rank Notre Dame and Oklahoma State is going to be very, very interesting. Oklahoma State won by a ton yesterday. What'd they win by? 60? Where's that score? I know you're in here somewhere. 63-17 over TCU, who just beat Baylor last week. Oklahoma State's got a really good team. Really good. What else we got? Oklahoma loses their first game to Baylor yesterday, 27-17, I believe. A lot of controversy at the end of this game. Lincoln Riley all upset. And I don't know that I blame him. You know, everybody thought the game was over. The fans rushed the field, but he had called the Baylor coach had called timeout to kick a field goal. And his explanation was, and I get it, and leagues look for this type of thing when style points matter and when point differential can come into play in tiebreakers. He thinks the 3 points could matter later when it comes to getting in the Big 12 championship game. He calls timeout to kick a field goal. If that's the way the rules are going to be, well, then I can't get mad at him. Lincoln Riley was livid if you saw the end of this game. You guys can comment whether you agree with him or not. Look, again, as long as the rules are what they are and those points matter, I got to call timeout and take them, or I'm doing my team a disservice. Notre Dame with a big win at Virginia yesterday, 28-3. Nice victory for Notre Dame. I'm telling you, they're looking better. They're running the ball tremendously. Great leap. Rick mentioned it earlier. I can't remember who it was. Kenny might be able to fill me in, or Rick on the running back. His name's escaping me at the moment. But he just jumped over a guy who was like 6'3", who wasn't bending over that much. Great play. Oklahoma State, we talked about. Texas A&M loses, so their hopes of going to the SEC championship game are gone. Wake Forest rebounds again. Defense non-existent, 45-42 over North Carolina State. It's a good win. Keeps them on pace for the ACC championship game and a New Year's Day bowl game. They got a couple tough games left with Clemson next week and BC to wrap up the season. We'll have Larry Sorensen on, hopefully. Let me get back to my you guys. Somehow I got myself screwed around with we'll go back to your comments here in a second. We'll have Larry Sorensen on Wednesday to discuss more about Wake and the ACC. Anybody else? Baylor, they're going to help themselves as far as the Big 12 championship goes with that victory over Oklahoma. Doubtful it's going to help them in the playoff race at all. So, Ole Miss did beat Texas A&M. That'll vault them up the ratings a little bit, but again, zero chance they're going to have a chance at the playoff, and nobody below here is going to. Obviously, Auburn with a bad loss yesterday against Mississippi State. Wisconsin. I don't know what Wisconsin did yesterday. What do we got? I think Wisconsin won pretty handily. They're playing good football right now, by the way. Wisconsin 35-7 over Northwestern. So, again, they're still in play for that Big Ten championship game. And look, if the Big Ten loses, I don't know. I mean, if Wisconsin or Minnesota was to win the Big Ten championship game, I don't know if the Big Ten is going to get a team in the playoff. Then you'll see Cincinnati in. Iowa's still alive. They did beat Minnesota. Minnesota's not getting there then, but Iowa will be in the hunt for that playoff game. San Diego State wins. Texas San Antonio stays undefeated. Utah playing really good football, beats Arizona, who's terrible. Arkansas gets back on the winning side against a really bad LSU team. I had this conversation. I'll get to your guys' comments here in a second. I had this conversation with Mac and Jack Friday. And, I mean, their contention is Cincinnati can't even compete. Look, I'm not saying they go and win against Georgia. I know they give them a game. I do believe they give them a game. I believe they give Alabama a game. They beat LSU. They're telling me, they couldn't even compete against LSU or Mississippi State. No, it wasn't Mississippi State. I don't know who it was. It was another middling team this year in the SEC. They beat LSU right now. LSU is not a good football team. They just aren't. They stepped up big and won last week, or I shouldn't say won. They gave a tough time to Alabama, but I All right, let's see what we got for some comments before I move on here. That's why Notre Dame gets to play the good teams. Well, they have to. If you're not going to play in a league, Kenny, you really got no choice but to schedule a very competitive schedule. And there's been knocks on Notre Dame's schedule the last few years as well. And it's not necessarily their fault. These schedules get done, most of them years in advance. And USC is normally good. Stanford's usually good. Navy's been very good a lot over the last couple of decades. I think they beat Notre Dame 3 times in the last 10 years. I could be wrong with that stat, but they give them a tough time in a lot of games. So it's not necessarily Notre Dame's fault that the teams that they scheduled are down a bit. Georgia Tech, not sure where that one comes from. Is that Georgia's got Georgia Tech next week, Rick? Oh, Hogs played a Tide. Okay. Look at they could lose that game. Alabama. This is one of my problems with the polls. And you're going to hear, and I don't mean to be redundant between the two shows, but I'm going to be consistent, right? Alabama gets, I think they get a pass being in the top 4. You should have left Alabama out of this top 4 because Alabama has a path to play themselves into the tournament. No reason to put them at number 2 with one loss ahead of undefeated teams or other one-loss teams, perhaps. Because Alabama's had many, many close calls. They're not going to get a close call against New Mexico State, ever. So, again, they should have ranked them out of the top 5. They could have ranked them as low as they wanted. They could have ranked them 8 or 9. If they won out, they would have been in the playoff because they'd have beaten Georgia in the SEC championship game, and that would have put them in. Well, Hogs were off to a great start. It was one of the great stories early in the year, and I liked them, and I wrote them hard in the betting world. How far do I think Oklahoma's going to drop? Oklahoma's going to drop a lot, I think, Anthony. I got to look a little closer here. Let's look. So right now they're 8. Notre Dame goes by them. Oklahoma State goes by them. Wake Forest likely goes by them. Baylor could very well go by them after beating them because, again, supposedly the committee puts a lot of stock in that, except when they don't. Michigan over Michigan State. And then I don't think they're going to fall below Ole Miss or that. So well, how many spots is that? That's going to be, where are we? 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 spots. They probably drop to 12 or 13 here. Would be my guess, Anthony. Yeah, I was going to do some of the other scores here. Army did win in a romp. That's always good. I like to recap the Armed Forces games before we get done with this. They're definitely out of the top 10, Kenny. Like I said, I see them at 12 most likely. You're going to say 8 or 9. Well, they're at 8 now, Anthony. Remember, don't look at the AP poll. Look at the college football poll. Don't look at the AP or the coaches poll because those are irrelevant. They don't matter anything, or they don't matter at all about anything going forward. It's the coaches poll that matters. And that'll be released Tuesday night again. I don't know the time, 9:00. They did it last week. So make sure you're looking at the right thing. You're probably thinking they're going to drop from 4 to 8. Well, they're at 8 now. And they're going to drop probably to 12. Lincoln would really be crying if they, yeah, it's possible. You're right, Kenny. I think they're better ready to compete than Texas, though. Texas got beat by Kansas yesterday. Kansas is one of the worst teams in college football. They're as bad as UMass and UConn. Maybe not as bad as UConn. UMass might be better. They fired their coach. Losing to Kansas is the ultimate embarrassment for Texas. And I heard all this talk about Steve Scarsazian, really turning the corner with this team. Don't dislike Steve Boy, oh boy. Scarcasian. Scarcasian. But, look at it. It's not like he's had national championship contenders wherever he's been when he had head coaching jobs before he got himself in trouble. Exactly, right. Rick moving to Kansas. Texas is in big trouble right now. They better improve a whole lot, or they're not going to be in the top half of that league. Oklahoma, I think, will be. I say the two teams will get in the playoff, assuming Alabama doesn't lose another game. No, it's not true. The SEC does not always get two teams in. They always get one. And they probably always will, as long as they're, again, their conference is just that good. That's why you need the expansion. Because you can't leave the SEC championship out unless they got 3 losses or something. 2 losses even. It never happens. I get your point, Kenny. Nobody wants to play in Indiana. But it's really sad. Indiana had a really good season last year. And they brought back a lot of guys. And this team has just not been able to get out of their own way this week or this year. I got a yup. It's a tough trip to Indiana to play Notre Dame. Yeah. Notre Dame plays Navy because Navy supported them when they didn't have any money and were thinking of doing away with football. Well, that's good. That's a good little bit of trivia. We love trivia on this show. I think it's a great tradition too. These are the games that can't go away. I made a comment about Notre Dame joining a conference, but again, they join a conference, and a lot of these games they won't be able to play. They can't play Navy every year, most likely, or they can't play Navy and USC and Stanford and Purdue. Again, do they need all those games? No, but USC Notre Dame's a huge traditional game. Navy and Notre Dame is. Army Notre Dame used to be, right? Way back in the day when all those teams were good. Oh, yeah, it's going to be hard for him to go 5, I think, Carlos. Again, let me look again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, Ole Miss would have to go ahead of them, and it's possible. They do. But you don't want your boy Kiffin to go there, right? That's for sure. Where are we here? I think I went ahead of some stuff. Where are we? 18 consecutive wins and style points isn't bad. Texas is horrible. Yeah, I agree. UConn, Jim Moore now. Interesting move. I had a note here to talk about this. This is an interesting move on both parts. Jim Moore, I thought his coaching career may have been over when he got let go at UCLA. He's 63 years old, I think. Not that that's old, because I'm almost getting there myself. And some of you may already be, so I'm not saying 63 is old. But it's old in major college football. But UConn needed to make a big splash. UConn had a good team the first time under Randy Edsall. And they went to a Fiesta Bowl before the Big East broke up. But this team has been just putrid in recent years. Texas Oklahoma will be the redhead stepchild of the SEC. Well, they've had redheaded stepchildren before. Arkansas, Texas, Missouri. Who else came in there? At least those 3 in the most recent expansion before this. It's been 2 because they were, well, I agree. And I think I did get that. Indiana traveling to South Bend. They did join and went undefeated. Well, remember, they only joined because they had to last year. They couldn't schedule anybody, so they had to join the ACC. And I still say the ACC did not hold Notre Dame's feet to the fire. They should have made them join. If they wanted to come in last year, they should have made them come in and commit to joining the league. And they did go undefeated, except for I think they lost the no, they didn't go undefeated, did they? Yes, they beat Clemson and then lost to Clemson. So they went undefeated before the championship game. What we got here? Is the birthday boy due today? Birthday boy. Whose birthday? I'm short. UConn's going to need to pick up a good recruiting team. Yeah, they may need like Alabama's recruiting team. That's what they might need, Carlos. What else on the NFL or the CBA? Man, I had 3 beers yesterday at our, early dinner. Didn't post yesterday. Went out and watched the end of the first early college football games. Had a late lunch, early dinner, and 3 Jeremiah Reds. And I feel like I was out with Billy Pulver until midnight. I was home by 4:30. Oh, gosh. Moral will help. Names always help, right? Names always help in recruiting. Who is the birthday boy? Oh, Mancini. I'm sorry. I should have mentioned at the top. Mark Mancini will not be with us today. The birthday boy. Is today his birthday? I got to wish him a happy birthday. Or is it tomorrow? I don't know. Hope it's not today. I haven't wished him a happy birthday yet. He's traveling back to his hometown of Pittsburgh. I believe he's going to see a Penguins game. I believe he may even be at the Steeler game today. Not positive. But we will not be hearing from Johnny. That's a good one, Rick. Oh, God. Rick, stop up the recovery room today. I'll buy you a beer. Feel like getting out and about. Or Kenny, you can come down too, but it's a long ways off the mountain for you. I agree. Texas and Oklahoma will have better recruiting when it's in the SEC. You know what? I don't think recruiting is a problem for either one of these teams, to be honest with you. There's talent there. Gotta coach them up. Snow on the mountain. Gonna get more tonight, probably. He's getting some sandwiches, Rick. Now you like Carlos if you're going to get your cheesesteaks, but I don't know if you want Pittsburgh cheesesteaks. I think you might want Philly cheesesteaks, right? All right, what's else going on in the world of college football before I move on? We talked about the upsets. Let's see. Let me just look here and see what else I wanted to chat about real quick. We talked about Oklahoma beating Baylor. Oh, Florida. God, Florida wins 70-52, I think the score was, against Samford. Samford, not Stanford. Samford. They were losing this game. I think Carlos and I might have had a chat last night quickly about this when I wasn't taking a nap. Yeah, Carlos, so I don't really get back to you. It's usually because I've fallen asleep or my phone fell under the chair and I can't get up and get it. Pittsburgh does have the Hoagies. Good point. Florida, Dan Mullen's in trouble. I would not have said that before the season because I thought they were rebuilding. They wouldn't have a great season anyway. But some of the things that have happened, especially after they beat Alabama, I thought this team was on the right track. But he's making a wrong decision with what quarterbacks. His recruiting has not been good. And the alum at Florida, who are not terribly patient people, as they were spoiled by first Steve Spurrier and then Urban Meyer, Dan Mullen could find himself in a lot of trouble here today. Yeah, I know it's dark at 4:30. I hate this time of year, Kenny, believe me. So I have to have my DD with me. Sanford's in I know where. It's not Stanford. It's Sanford, isn't it? I think. I don't think there's a T. Miami with a bad loss yesterday against Florida State. Miami had been playing well. Going 3 in a row, I think. Manny Diaz got himself off the hot seat, and now they go to Florida State, and they lose a tough game. Florida State's played better recently. And both these programs could be on the rise. And the ACC would be better for it. But time will tell. What do we got here? Some Sunday I'll make the trip up the mountain for my muffins. Florida State does still play football now and again. Not all the time, but now and again. So again, Dan Mullen, I predict, will be out of a job. I know Carlos had said that he thought it'd be a landing place for Urban Meyer to return home-ish to Florida. But Miami joins the Tri-Valley League. Oh, gosh. They might be able to compete there, Kenny. I don't know. Let's see what else we got. Talked about that. FSU, we just talked about that. It's a good win for SFU yesterday. I mean, these teams and the teams in South Florida are struggling, man. Well, North Florida, too. Every team in Florida is struggling. Miami, Florida State, South Florida, UCF, Florida. What else? Jimmy Lake's future at Washington, he's in trouble, this guy. He gets suspended for a game, and I think they're going to use this. I don't think they're happy with his overall improvement of this program at Washington, and I think they're going to use this altercation on the sideline to probably get him out of the league. We talked about New England football earlier. UMass lost to an FBS team for the second straight week, so they aren't even beating teams in 1AA or whatever we want to call it today. And UConn lost to Boston College. So they're just atrocious, man. Hopefully, Jim Moore can bring some stability to that Connecticut team for sure. Interesting yesterday, Lane Kiffin. I know we got a bunch of Lane Kiffin lovers out here, and Kenny and Carlos anyway. I kind of like Lane Kiffin. I like the swagger he walks around with. I really do. If you don't watch College Game Day, which is one of my favorite, probably my favorite sports pregame show of any sport on any level, ESPN Game Day is just so well done and produced. He was a guest picker yesterday, and it was very funny watching him pick. I don't think he did too bad either. I mean, he was picking games based on, whatever. He picked Mississippi State because he's got to play him in 2 weeks. You think he's going to pick against them? Very interesting. He picked Tennessee, a huge upset because, he had an acrimonious departure there from Tennessee. Mickey Mouse. Where is Mickey Mouse? That's not fair. Give Mickey a better nickname, Billy. Shame the Huskies used to be a powerhouse. You know what? Washington was a really good football team for a lot of years. Right up until not that long ago when Rick Peterson was there. They were in a playoff not that long ago. Didn't do very well, but they were there. And they got a great history going back to the great Don James. I had Skip Hall on my show 6 weeks ago, whatever. He was a former assistant under Don James, went on to coach Boise State. We talked a lot about the great tradition up there that Don James had built. It's a shame when you see these, teams that have done well over really an extended period of time really struggle, and we see a lot of it now. Look at Alabama, struggled for a lot of years before Nick Saban got there. They weren't Connecticut. They weren't Vanderbilt, but they weren't what Alabama was accustomed to being as they were going through coaches after Bear Bryant retired. And they went from, Perkins to Du Bois, and Gene Stallings had a decent run there and won a national championship. But gosh, I can't even think all the guys that were there. Shula, just every team's going to go through this at some point. Nebraska's going through it now. Defamation. Oh, yes, Gruden does sue the NFL. I was going to get in that when we get into the NFL section. I definitely will. I have that on my list to talk about for sure. Georgia keeps struggling. Well, don't go there. I will say something, and I've said this for a long time, and I said early in the year, I was a doubter with Georgia. I really was. Georgia now just needs to finish up their business. That means they got to beat Alabama. They're not going to lose the rest of the regular season. They got to beat Alabama, number one. That's the first monkey that, I shouldn't say it's the first monkey. They got to win the championship game, the SEC championship game. That's the first monkey they got to get off their back. Then they need to finish the job and win it all. Otherwise, Kirby Smart's still going to have the tag of he can't win the big game. It's a great team, best team in the country. There is zero question. Anything to do with the rankings, I don't disagree with anything with Georgia. Georgia could lose to Alabama in the SEC championship game, and I still might say they're number one. And it could happen. Got that already. I'm not sure what that means. Good morning, Mark Robert Shaw. How are you? Good to see you. All right, enough college football for today, I guess. I was going to talk a little bit about the Heisman, but I just don't feel like it. We'll talk about it Wednesday night. I want to talk a little bit of Major League Baseball before we move on to the NFL. So, some news out of Major League Baseball this week. Some big news, some small news. Gabe Kapler, who I blasted the Giants for signing because I thought he was a horrible fit and he'd done a horrible job in Philadelphia. Some of his methods are kind of quirky. Didn't get along with the front office, didn't get along with his players. And he signs a big extension through 24 to remain the Giants manager. Did a great job this year. Can't take anything away from him at all. Somehow, Andrew Haney gets an $8 million deal, $8.5 million 1-year deal with the Dodgers. Oh, my God. Did anybody watch him pitch this year? Before or after the Yankees picked him up? How does anybody give him $8 million? Man, I'm telling you guys, if you got kids or grandkids, teach them to throw the ball left-handed, and they can pitch in the major leagues until they're 50 and not even have to be any good. God. Big story. Supposedly, Justin Verlander is a physical away from signing with the Yankees. I believe, and Carlos, maybe you can help me out here. Let me see if I can. I thought I had the post open here. Maybe I closed it by accident. I think it's 2 years, $10 billion, which I can live with, by the way, depending on what else they got in mind, because this can't be their signature move, right? I know Carlos wants to trade Aaron Judge. I don't want to do that. Didn't change my banner. Where's my producer? I like the move because it only ties up $5 million this year, and I can go after a free agent catcher, free agent shortstop. You're going to need money. If you want Carlos Correa, if you want Seager, you want any of these free agent shortstops, you're going to have to open up your pocketbook probably for a bunch of years. Carlos and I debated this a little bit. He thinks they get him for 3 years and a bunch of money. I don't. He's going to want a guaranteed long-term contract. So that's big news. So again, nothing's official yet. The rumors are that he is just a physical away from signing with the Yankees. We'll see what happens. Heaney, good grief. I don't understand. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's me. I just don't understand how teams make some of these, moves. There's a lot of free agents out there, right? And it's a question of whether there's going to be a sprint to December 2nd before the lockout. And it's almost guaranteed the owners are going to lock out players on December 2nd. I talked about this whole thing in a vlog a little bit and some other things about Major League Baseball on Friday. I hope you guys will check it out. But we don't know whether teams are going to race to sign guys, like seems to be happening a little bit this week, or they're going to just sit and wait until after the lockout is over and see what kind of the new CBA is. But you got a lot of free agents. Here in my mind is the top 25 free agents. You can put them on whatever team you think they'll fit. Carlos Correa, I think he's going to stay with Houston myself. Corey Seager, great player. Dodgers likely aren't going to re-sign him with Trey Turner on the roster. I think it'd be interesting if the Yankees can bring him in. He's the guy I'd bring in. Freddie Freeman, I can't see Freddie leaving Atlanta. You got Trevor Story. Hard to say what Trevor Story is going to do outside of Coors Field in Colorado. So got to be careful on what you're going to do there. Marcus Semien, almost said the other thing. Great player. Where he ends up, don't know. White Sox looking for a second baseman. He could end up there. There's a bunch of teams that could use him. He's a great player. Kevin Gausman, look at his career rebounded this year with San Francisco. I just don't know whether this is a guy you can give a long-term contract to or even big money to in a short-term contract because his track record isn't that great. Max Scherzer, still showing he's got some miles left, although he got a tired arm in the World Series, and that did not help the Dodgers. The Dodgers. He got a tired arm in the NLCS. Sorry, that didn't help the Dodgers any for sure. Chris Bryant, big pickup for the Giants this year. I would be shocked if they didn't try to re-sign him, but he would fit with a lot of teams. And Met fans, you should have traded for this guy at midseason. You should have him in your sights right now if you don't. Robbie Ray, a lot of talk about him going to the Yankees. I don't know that he's a guy who's going to stand up well in New York. And I'll get to your guys' comments here in a second. Starling Marte, this is a guy I would like to see patrolling center field for the Yankees. A little bit of injury issues, but nothing like Aaron Hicks. He's close to a 5-tool player. The thing is, the Yankees are stuck with Aaron Hicks's contract and Stanton's contract. We'll see what happens. Javier Baez, another great player, but I don't like the way he plays the game. But he's going to sign somewhere and get a lot of money. Clayton Kershaw, going to be interesting. He had a rebound season this year until he got hurt late in the season. And it's going to be interesting to see what kind of money and length. It's not so much the money. It's going to be the length to see what he gets. Nick Castellanos for the Reds. He's a big free agent. Had a big year this year. Carlos Rondon, free agent pitcher. Michael Conforto, another interesting case. Scott Burrell's client, who doesn't let anybody go on the cheap. If I'm Michael Conforto, I sign a 1-year contract somewhere and try to have a good year so my value goes back up and go back into the market next year. You got Eduardo Rodriguez. You got Marcus Stroman. Not a big fan, although the Yankees are considering him as well. You got Garcia. Iglesias is a free agent. Schwarber's a free agent. See, now we're getting into guys that I just don't have a lot of interest in. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Lots of good guys out there. It's going to be interesting to see what happens early before the lockout and how much happens after. Because if there's a lockout and it lasts into the spring, close to spring training, you're going to have this sprint with all these guys available. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens. All right, let's get to some of your comments here. I'm going to move on from the college ones. Yes, we know that they should beat the University of Charleston Tech for the blind. Yankees need to wake up. We know what the Yankees need to do. We've talked about it at length, Carlos. That's what the Yankees and Mets need to do, sign one-year deals. I agree, but you can't get these guys to New York on one-year deals. That's the problem. I don't doubt they need to go younger, and that would skew them away from Verlander and skew them away from Marte, but these are good players. Blackman's available. I wouldn't say he's one of the top guys available, though, Carlos. Good player, great player. Certainly a great player in Coors Field, but he's on the downward side of his career. So he's going to get a short-term contract somewhere for not a lot of money. You know, like Chris Bryant, would love to know why. He's a great player, plays a lot of different positions. There's no reason not to like Chris Bryant. I'd love to know your reason not to like him. Marte, I'm not saying there's not some downside here with Marte. I like Marte a lot as a player. And I think if the Yankees, by the way, I think if the Yankees had picked up Marte and not Joey Gallo, we would have a different story with that team going forward. Well, you know what? Kershaw, it's getting to the point where you think like a guy like Clayton Kershaw might want to retire. Because what else are you going to do? You won World Series, you won Cy Youngs. What else you got to prove? You know, and you don't want to have long-term injury issues. Conforto to the Angels. Yeah, the Angels, what they need to do is sign more outfielders that have injury issues. That's what they should do when they don't have any pitchers who can get anybody out. Well, you could be right. I'm not saying you're wrong, Carlos. I just think this is the Angels, typical Angels move. If there's a lockout, it won't last past through February. Well, you know what? Training camps are going to open in February, Carlos. So you're going to have you're going to have that very condensed free agent period if they don't have a sprint towards it now. So maybe say 1 year with 10 years as a bonus if you win 20 games. You know what? You can do that. I think there's a limit to the way you can put incentives into contracts via the CBA, but I think shorter contracts would probably be the way to go. I don't think you want to do 1 year contracts, you know, with everybody. You want to lock guys up. Yankees want to lock up Judge now before he can become a free agent. And I think it's a smart play. They'll get him cheaper. How likely do I think a lockout is? 100%, Rick, that there'll be a lockout on December 2nd. They're not even close. I don't think they're even negotiating right now. So I think it's highly unlikely there will not be a lockout. And again, the owners do this because, and another reason is if they haven't reached an agreement by September 2nd, they're not going to take a chance on getting into spring training without a CBA and then players going on strike. The owners don't let players go on strike, not in any leagues anymore. It's been a long time since there's been a player strike. The owners take the initiative. I don't know, Kenny. There's an awful lot of wealth spread around in the sports. I'm not sure I can call the owners, you know, again, it's a for-profit business, you know, and the employees seem to be making plenty of money. So it's not Walmart. So anyway, we're going to move on from baseball to the NFL. And before I get started with anything to do with the NFL, I want to say, I want to change my banner. Oh, let's see. Certainly not Larry Sorensen we're looking for here. Oh my God. How is it every week there's like one I can't find? Isn't that terrible? I swear they move around as I'm messing around here. Here we go. NFL. So look at the first thing I got to say is rest in peace to one of the greatest football players the New York area ever saw and the NFL ever saw in general. He played in a different generation, but he was a great player. Sam Huff passed away at 87 years old, I believe, yesterday. Sam Huff played with the Giants and Allie Sherman and the Giants management broke a lot of fans' hearts when they traded Sam Huff to the Washington Redskins. Sam Huff was a great player, certainly a throwback, a player who fit the era that he played in tremendously, a time where the game is played so much differently. And it's very sad to see, we start to lose these guys. Sam was the man, agreed. So I don't disagree with your guys' comments back there, Rick and Kenny, either. I just moved on, so I certainly don't disagree with what you're saying there. So anyway, rest in peace. God bless you, Sam Huff. Great career. Life well lived. And we hope you rest peacefully, Sam. Great player. NFL needs more guys like Sam Huff. Kenny, they still didn't let me in. So if it's asking you to log in, Kenny, I got to tell you got to log in. And you can ask for password help because I got logged out because I think I did a cleanup on my computer this week. And it's happened to me on my phone, too, where I've gotten logged out of stuff, and then I got to relog in. So if you don't know your password, you should have to, when you joined, you should have had to create an account on ESPN to be able to join the league in the first place. So that's what they're going to ask you to log in with, whatever you set up then. And if you don't remember, there's ways to get your password. No, they don't make players like Sam Huff anymore. And the game is played so much differently that a Sam Huff today would be, wouldn't be able to play. Dick Butkus wouldn't be able to play. So great era, great players. We're losing a lot of these guys in all of the sports that we grew up watching. So again, rest in peace. This week, actually, before we get into this week, let's look at last week's. I know Kenny's having some trouble right now with the Pick'em site, so keep playing with that, Kenny. Hopefully you can get it fixed. I'll be at the recovery room by about noon if you need help. I'm not sure that I can help you. The problem, as I said earlier, these free sites, I don't have any admin capabilities. I don't believe. I'll look quickly later. Not sure that I can do much, though. Anyway, last week's results. Mark Matheson continues to roll with 9 wins, followed closely by Mark Robertshaw. These guys are up at the top. And the rest of us really kind of sucked wind, man. Jesus. Ryan Learman, 6 wins. Kenny, 6. Robert, 6. Mike Sazar, 6. Carlos, 6. TGI Sports Talk with 5. Oh, my God. I was on a roll. I really made up some ground. Now I've fallen to 9 games out of first place. Sunnydale Scoobies, which is Drew, 4 wins, and Mickey Delaney with 3. Where's Rick? Did you not put picks in again last week, Rick? I got a 0. I think you just want Mickey to beat you. You're giving him the win. So anyway, for the season, what do we got for the season here? As we said, let me do it this way. Mark Matheson at 75 wins, 1 ahead of Mark Robertshaw, only 2 ahead of Ryan Learman. Ryan, make sure you're following the show. I don't want you to lose out on that 100. I still don't know that you aren't, but next time I get a chance to look at the list, I will let you know. Then we got to drop all the way back to Carlos at 68. TGI Sports Talk right behind him at 66, but we got a long ways to go, man. Catch up. Need some 10s and 12s. Kenny Gifford at 63. Sunnydale Scoobies at 63. Robert, 62. Mike Sazor, 61. Mickey Delaney, 52 with some games missed. Rick Sherlock, 52, tied. He's letting Mickey catch up. And then we got some guys that are in or not in. Chuck McConnell, Brad Mitchell, Mark Mancini. I guess Mark was doing so badly, he decided he should just drop out. All right, any comments we got about that stuff while we're doing it here? He would need to leave now. Didn't take after 10. Not sure what that means. Guess ESPN will not be the site we use next year. Let's look. What other stories we got going on before I get into it? Injury-wise, we got tons, as I said. Ben Roethlisberger, Nick Chubb out with COVID-19. Sam Darnold, it looks like, is out for the year. Can't read some of my other writing here. Robert Woods goes down with a season-ending injury in practice Friday, the morning after they picked up OBJ. I think it'd be very interesting. I wonder if that didn't happen beforehand, right? Group password. You need the group password, Kenny? See if I can give it to you real quick. It's TGI Sports Talk in lowercase. TGI Sports Talk, lowercase, all one word. That's the group password. All right. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. I don't like the signing. Debated this a little bit with Carlos on Friday. I didn't like this, not knowing Robert Woods was hurt. Let me see if I can copy this and put it in the thing. I think I can. Hang on, Kenny. I'm working on something for you. That should be it. Just make sure there's no spaces at the beginning or the end of it, because I copied and pasted, and just make sure there's no spaces there. That should help you, hopefully. Oh, where was I? OBJ. So before I knew Woods was out for the year, I didn't like this. Woods had already been complaining about not getting the ball enough, and they're going to Cooper Kupp and blah, blah, blah. And you had another guy who's just going to scream for the football. Matthew Stafford isn't a guy who can control these guys. I don't know if Sean McVay is a guy that can control these guys. This isn't Bill Belichick and Tom Brady we're talking about, who you can bring in Antonio Brown. And if you watch Stafford's press conference, he didn't sound terribly excited that OBJ was on his way into town. This wasn't Tom Brady offering Antonio Brown to stay at his house when he got into town. So very interesting to see how that fit works. I understand he may return punts today, and that might be his only activity. I'd be a little surprised if they didn't put him in if he's active, if he didn't play some downs on offense. I'd be very surprised. And another news, you guys brought this up earlier, Rick or Kenny did. John Gruden is suing the NFL and Roger Goodell. And I'm not sure for what. I don't remember the details. If it's defamation, again, if he said the things he said and there's evidence that he said them, I don't know how he was defamed. If there's talk that, this is private information, it shouldn't have been released to the public, that might be a little different story. Privileged information, I don't know how that would work, right? Privacy laws, who knows? I mean, look at guys, don't put stupid stuff down in writing, whether it be in text or emails or whatever. And these things don't catch you later. Is leaking the emails is the crux of this? Well, again, I don't know what the privacy and maybe there's writing in the language of the NFL that they can't do this. But I don't know what privacy laws are. I'm not a lawyer. Guess I could ask my wife, but I don't think this is where her expertise is. I mean, if I come across a bunch of Rick Sherlock's emails and I release them to the public, have I done something wrong? Well, I heard a friend. That'd be stupid. But, assuming we're in some kind of different relationship, I don't know. I don't know that that's an illegal offense or not. It's not confidential information, right? This isn't high-class, top secret government stuff. John Gruden also claims he didn't say that. He didn't mean the things that he said. They were taken out of context. So I don't know how you take some of the things I saw out of context. And again, I think the Raiders are glad to be rid of him. The Raiders got some other problems, obviously, also, but I think they're glad to be rid of him. I really do. He could win. Look at this we live in a very litigious society, and people win lawsuits over first of all, the silliest things, and then rulings go ways that I can't believe sometimes. I mean, go back 20 years. Maybe more? How does a woman get millions and millions of dollars because she burned her crotch with hot coffee at McDonald's and nobody told her coffee would be hot? Man, very hard. This is a tough world today, man. Very tough world to live in. All right. Let's go down before we go up to anything else. You guys can put some more, can you get in? Excellent. Good job, Kenny. Get in. Do me a favor, Kenny, if you could. Post that in the group chat that we had there where a few of us are in, and maybe Mark can pick it up there. Mark Mathis was having trouble too. Maybe he'll see it, maybe he won't, but when I see him at noon, I can get him in there. Excellent. Rick, I don't know if you had a problem, do the same thing. Wasn't sure whether you did or didn't. Let's go to this week's pick, shall we, guys? Don't know who I'm betting yet. We'll see if I can maybe give you a little information as we go forward. Keith, I can tell you TGI Sports Talk has already lost game number 1. Or did I win? Hold on here. I took the Dolphins. Is that accurate? Oh, I got to go back to the standings. Hold on. Week 10. No, I didn't take them. Why is it got a check mark next to it? That's weird, huh? Maybe I didn't pick it. I did find out my picks may not have taken last week either, so that's kind of weird. Something weird goes on. These systems, they change algorithms and whatnot, and they screw us all up. So anyway, let's get back to today's picks, shall we? TGI Sports Talk. Got to get back on the board here. So anyway, got a loser on Monday night or Thursday night. I'll take the Cowboys minus 9.5 or the Falcons. They're playing at home. They need to bounce back after a horrendous game against the Broncos. Broncos defense was very good, but this was a bad loss for the Cowboys. I don't like laying 9.5 here. Atlanta's got a fighting chance, but I just don't think this is a team that can come in here and win. Dallas knocked me out of an $80,000 survivor pool last week, so we're not terribly happy about that either. And again, I'll catch up with your comments. You guys can comment as we go along. When we get through the picks, we'll wrap up the show with your comments and go from there. Tennessee Titans minus 3.5 against the Saints. Listen, the way they played, I thought without Derrick Henry, this team would have no chance. But they just dismantled the Rams on the road last week. And this team is well coached. And I'm going to take them over the Saints that still have some major quarterback issues. Minus the 3.5. The Colts minus 10.5 against the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars got their win for the year last week. And an ugly game against their second win, against an ugly win against the Jets. But who knows? Maybe their defense looked really good, but we're talking about the Bills. Good grief, sorry. That defense looked really, really good, or the Bills are just awful. I don't know which. But I'm going to take the Colts minus the 10.5 here. The Colts have played very up and down football this year. The Patriots minus 1.5. Some injuries, major injuries on both sides of this contest. Nick Chubb out for the Browns. Damian Harris out for the Patriots. Both playing really good defense at the moment. The Browns have a ferocious pass rush, and they play well against the run. This is a major game for the Patriots to keep that momentum going forward. They won 3 in a row now, and this is a team that if they win this game, it's a very important game for a lot of reasons. to justify that they're as good as I think they've become or getting to. And this game could come into play heavily when we're looking at wildcard teams down the road. I look for the Bills to bounce back plus or minus 13.5, against the Jets on the road. A lot of points to lay on the road with a Buffalo team that's been struggling lately. But I do not think that Mike White is the next coming of Joe Montana with the Jets. And the Jets better be careful or they'll end up with themselves with a nice little quarterback controversy because the coach isn't saying the right things. Got no problem with him playing Mike White, but you don't get asked about your quarterback situation going forward when Zach Wilson is healthy and say, we'll just see how it plays out. You say Mike White's playing quarterback right now, but Zach Wilson is the quarterback of the future. Or you end up with a quarterback controversy, and then that's tough for a veteran coach to handle, much less a rookie coach. Tampa Bay 9.5 over Washington. I will take my boy Tom Brady in a game where probably a similar spread in the playoffs. I did not do that last year, much to my chagrin. Arizona 10.5 over Carolina. Carolina's quarterback situation's a mess. They signed Cam Newton this week. I know Carlos is going to be all over that, thinking now the Carolina's probably going to the Super Bowl. But it smacks of desperation to me. And good luck, Panther fans. He can't play anymore. I'm all over the Cardinals. Chargers minus 2.5 against Rick's Vikings. Not playing very well. It's very hard for me to go against the Chargers in this game. They haven't played as well recently. They played good last week, but they've had their ups and downs this year. Too tough at home, even though it's a really not even a home game for them with that situation in LA. But I just can't see the Vikings going on the road. I thought they beat Baltimore last week. Was it last week? Whatever. Very disappointing team. Mike Zimmer is on the ropes, and I think Rick Sherlock is on board with that. Broncos minus 2.5 would probably be a bet for me today against the Eagles. Don't like the Eagles. Don't like Jalen Hurts. I love that Denver Bronco defense. Not crazy about their quarterback. Aaron Rodgers returns today from his COVID shutdown to play the Seahawks, who are still without Russell Wilson, and a fall to 3-5. And I just don't see this team competing with the Packers today. This will probably be a bet for me. And lastly, I'm sorry, we still got two more games, right? Raiders plus 2.5 at home. I will take the Raiders plus 2.5 at home against the struggling Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs got to show me a lot more than they've shown me the last month to be given points to a division rival who's not a bad team, playing pretty good football on the road. And we'll see how that works out. The Rams minus 3.5 at the 49ers. 49ers banged up as they always are. Little bit in disarray with the quarterback situation. We'll see how that all plays out. I will take the Rams on the road to rebound, even with their murky quarterback situation. So what do we got comment-wise, guys? Anything? Okay, good. Thanks, Kenny, for sending that. Dallas always disappoints. They disappointed me. I mean, I really was buying into this team at 6-1 last week. Saw no way they could lose that game at home to Denver with very little offensive firepower. And just a horrible loss for Dallas. And it could start a downward trend. I'm in another Survivor poll this week where I still can take Dallas, and I may take them. Because I don't learn my lesson, apparently. Never 2 without 3. Not sure where you're going there. Jets need defense. You're right. Jets need a lot of defense. Jets defense has been probably the biggest disappointment of this season as I watched them from the outside. But I really don't like the way your coach is handling this quarterback situation either, Billy. I don't mind that Mike White's playing. Zach Wilson's still banged up. Give him a few weeks off. And even if Zach Wilson was healthy and you decide you want to play Mike White, you do it but you still say Zach Wilson is our future. That can change later. But you don't say, well, we'll see how things play out. Bad way to manage that. Cards without a quarterback. Well, listen, they did very well with Colt McCoy last week. And I don't know. Murray, there's still a slight chance he'll play. I think he may have been ruled out by now. It's almost 11 o'clock. The inactives are probably coming out. Wilson starts. Chiefs are 3-1 in the last 4 games. Not playing well, though, Kenny. Still not the Chiefs that we knew before. Patrick Mahomes has been one of the probably at the bottom of the league's quarterback ratings since week 5. But wins and losses are all that matter. I agree. So Carlos had to run for a checkers match. Oh, Carlos takes it so tough. Rick, if I get him, if we do a debate show, you got to be around somehow. Jags never 2 without 3. Coach seems lost. I agree, Billy. I'm a little concerned. I thought it was a good hire, but you look at him and he looks lost on the sidelines. I think he looks lost in his press conferences. Again, the message he sends is so important. Not about wins and losses this year. It's about developing this team and getting it better and being competitive. Look at if it turns out that Mike White is that guy and Zach Wilson was a bust. Well, maybe it won't be a bust, but he may be playing somewhere else. If Mike White all of a sudden becomes Tom Brady and comes out of nowhere. But you don't leave it ambiguous. You don't leave it ambiguous and just hope for the best, right? Oh, I don't know. What I miss on the NFL side. Covered a lot of stuff. Let me just check. Let me just check something here. We may be wrapping her up here. You guys got any last comments? Please get them up before I move on here. No, I guess I don't really have anything else I wanted to chat about right now. I think we're good. A lot of big injuries today, guys. Be careful. Be careful in your picks. Odell and Beck. Yeah, I talked about Odell and very fortuitous signing, I guess. I didn't like it in the beginning, but with Robert Woods out for the year, now it makes better sense. He may not play a lot on offense today, but he is scheduled potentially to return kicks. I did mention Rodgers was back. I will say that man has lost all credibility in people's minds. You know, I don't care what I got into this conversation a little bit, and I try not to get into these conversations, you know, but there were people backing him because he wouldn't take the shot because he didn't know what was in it. I don't care whether he wanted a shot or didn't want the shot. It's not what this is about. If he doesn't want the shot, he's entirely within his rights not to get it, knowing what the repercussions could be. My problem is you don't lie. And he could say he didn't lie. He can say, oh, I didn't say I got the vaccination. Every single person he said I'm immunized to believed he got the vaccination. So if you don't want the vaccination based on some high moral ground or anything, doubt, whatever you want to call it, then have the courage of your convictions. And I hate to give any credit to that nut job, Kyrie Irving, but at least he has a courage of his convictions and says, I won't get it because you're telling me to. Don't try to mislead people. And that's what this Aaron Rodgers thing is all about. It's not about whether you want to. I don't care whether you think that you should get the vaccine or shouldn't, because that's not what this question's about. This question's about a man's integrity and whether you misled the media, the public, and his teammates and the league. Right. You wouldn't care. Yes, I would. There's where you're wrong, Carlos. I would care. I would care a great deal if he was on the Patriots. Because he wouldn't be pulling this crap, number one, if he was on the Patriots. He's not a man. He's a weird nut job. He really is. Actually, State Farm, there's some rumors that State Farm may dump him. And there's a lot of rumors that some other endorsement people, and I don't know what they are, have already dumped him, and that his future in that world is probably done. No, I would not be. No. Yes, I would care if he were. I hope that's what you're saying, Kenny. I would care. Unfortunately, he's the best quarterback in the NFL. That's debatable. He's a great player, and he's not. And if he's on your team, all you worry about is winning losses. No, not necessarily. I don't want bad people on my team. I don't. You know, Patriots had a guy who was a serial killer on their team, and I didn't like that. I did wish they could get him out on. Oh, never mind. We'll see. You don't come back from this kind of thing with sponsors, though. You just don't. Unless it's Nike. I have watched some of the Kaepernick thing, Carlos. We'll talk more about that, by the way. Might be a good thing for us to debate one day. Oh, God. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up a couple minutes early. Move on. I got to pack things up. I got to head north or west. Go see the boys in Amsterdam. Rick, come on up for a beer. Be there at noon. Guys, Keith Engel, TGI Sports Talk. Great conversations today. Great feedback. Great back and forth. Love you guys to death. Love the support you give me in the show. Guys, get your friends. Go invite all your friends. If you don't know how to invite them, I just showed Kenny how to get logged back into the pick'em. I'll show you how to invite people. We'll have a little tutorial next week if you need to have it. Invite your friends. Let's get up to 2,000 people. Have a great weekend. You know, Billy, I'm rooting for the Jets, by the way. So go Pats, go Jets.